Tonight, the Central New York community continues to mourn the loss of little Maddox Lawrence. Good evening, everyone. I'm Megan Coleman. Just after noon today, Syracuse police found a body in the Inner Harbor, which they believe is that of the little girl. It is a devastating end to a story that had the entire community praying for her safe return. Her disappearance over the weekend sparked an Amber Alert. Tonight, her father, 24-year-old Ryan Lawrence, is charged with second-degree murder. You're getting the first look at his mugshot. He remains locked up tonight in the Onondaga County Justice Center and will be arraigned tomorrow morning. Tonight, we have extensive live team coverage of this story, and we begin with the latest on the investigation. Matt is live at the Inner Harbor with more on that. Matt?
Well, Megan, it's been such an emotional day for all involved, the family, the police, and certainly the community, too. I talked with a family member late this afternoon who said they're devastated and are going to need time to heal. This is news they just hope they would not get. Then there was the late afternoon news conference from Chief Frank Fowler, who seemed on the verge of breaking down in tears himself, such a strong man, feeling the emotions of this day and the search for baby Maddox. And then the scene where we are right here, the Inner Harbor area, where one police officer I spoke with who was present at the time said you could hear a pin drop when they brought her body out of the water today. Now, these are icy waters here at the Inner Harbor. We're right near the Bear Street Bridge where it meets Van Rensselaer. And they say they believe the remains are baby Maddox, although they must wait for DNA testing. They are confident that this is the little girl they've been looking for. Police recovered baby Maddox's body around noontime, maybe just a little after today, in this Inner Harbor area, not far from Destiny, USA, a very familiar spot to people. They found her in the creek under the Bear Street overpass. Here's what Chief Fowler had to say late in the day about how emotional this is for all of the officers involved.
We're supposed to protect our children, and all of us in law enforcement, that's the way we feel, and for most of us, that's the reason why we enter into this line of business here. As challenging as it may be in today's environment, we're willing to step up and don those badges and uniforms each day to stand in the gap, to try to assure that something like this doesn't happen. And when it does, yeah, we want to bring closure for the family, but boy, it don't make it any easier.
That was Chief Fowler late this afternoon. We're going to go into some of the details of what the chief explained happened and how noontime today they were here with the state police divers in this water and the events that transpired since Saturday night when the mother, Morgan Lawrence, first told the police that she thought something was terribly wrong with regard to her husband and her 21-month-old daughter, Maddox. Now, in terms of the memorial that's taking shape here, as often happens in tragedies like this, people looking for a way to express themselves. This memorial for Maddox has been set up in place on the Onondaga Creek Walk here. There's flowers, there's balloons, stuffed animals, all filling a small spot near the police scene where the rescue and the recovery took place today. And tonight, family and friends are planning a candlelight vigil for the grieving community. They're expecting that to start at the Inner Harbor Pavilion around 8 o'clock tonight. That's the spot where that familiar white tent is, not far from the construction of the new hotel at the Inner Harbor. Now, more about little Maddox. We've been hearing about her over the last 3 days. She was diagnosed with a rare cancer of the eye and did have treatments. You remember the GoFundMe page where the community chipped in to raise nearly $10,000 for her treatment, and she was still in need of more care from her doctors. We want to talk more about the investigation and the fact that Ryan Lawrence is now charged with murder in the second degree. For that, we go to our Alex Dunbar, who was at the police news conference at the Public Safety Building late today. Alex?
Syracuse Police Chief Frank Fowler being very careful in what he had to say this afternoon, not giving very many details about how baby Maddox was found or what her father, Ryan Lawrence, had to say to police. Fowler saying he didn't want to do anything that could compromise what is still an ongoing investigation. Chief Fowler said this has been a very difficult investigation for officers. The department wanted to bring closure to Maddox's family, but an arrest doesn't make it any easier. Multiple times, the chief reminded everyone at the press conference that many details police know right now cannot be revealed at this time. When asked about Ryan Lawrence's mindset, the chief making it very clear there are no easy answers.
what you're asking for me to do is to follow a logical thought process to describe a very heinous and illogical act. It just don't work that way. It just don't work that way.
The chief, very emotional at times during this press conference, saying that we owe children under our care the right to grow up. Chief also saying they are not looking at other suspects at this time, but they are hoping to hear from more witnesses, still trying to piece together some of the details. For now, reporting from the Syracuse Police Department in downtown Syracuse, I'm Alex Dunbar.
Thank you, Alex. Alex and I were both at that news conference at the Public Safety Building, and the chief really was visibly upset as he tried to explain to the community all he could about what happened here. Now let's talk more about the events that took place. You remember the mother of baby Maddox was working at Destiny Saturday night, and her car was left in the parking lot. Well, let's pick up that timeline. Ryan Lawrence was supposed to pick up his wife Morgan from her job at Destiny USA Saturday night late. Instead, she got a text saying her car was left for her in the parking lot with the keys in the ignition. When she arrived home, she found a message from Ryan saying he was taking Maddox, their daughter. Morgan called police at about 11:30 Saturday night, and the tone in Ryan's message led police to believe he was serious. He could be a danger to himself or Maddox. The Amber Alert was issued Sunday morning early. Then, Ryan Lawrence, Maddox's father, was taken into custody yesterday afternoon in the Baldwinsville area. Remember, we told you about this last evening. A 911 call reporting a man matching Lawrence's description came from a worker at the Thrifty Shopper on Downer Street. That was around 4:30 yesterday afternoon. At the time, he was wearing a disguise, trying to conceal himself. He had on a wig, a baseball hat, sunglasses. And when he went into the Thrifty Shopper, someone working there recognized him because she had been watching all of this unfold on the news. Police found him walking along Downer Street a short time later.
She told me she followed him down towards Rite Aid on Downer Street, and the police came and they said that they apprehended him and they weren't sure. I guess they did ask for his ID. This is what an officer told us, and it was him. He seemed a little off, but I just took it as, like I said, I thought he was homeless because he smelled like firewood, like he was in front of a campfire or something.
He smelled like a campfire, according to those who saw him that night, because he had been on the run for about 36 to maybe 48 hours at that point. Now, he spent some time in several different areas. In fact, Chief Fowler addressed this at the news conference this afternoon, saying they've had several locations that they've had to investigate with regard to what happened to baby Maddox after she was taken Saturday night. Let's show you a map, at least to give you some idea where we're talking about. The Baldwinsville area, where Ryan Lawrence was arrested, or at least taken into custody initially. Police began searching the Inner Harbor area near Destiny USA. They were doing that Sunday, but then they got more focused today. Search efforts also turned to an area called Labrador Hollow near Tully. Now, state police, Syracuse police, and the state forest rangers were searching there all day. It's right near Tinker Falls off Route 91. Right now, we don't know exactly why the police were there. They say it was pertinent to the investigation. In fact, the chief today addressed that, saying, yes, they were there because of this investigation, but no, he was not going to explain in detail why that was. Our Sarah Beth Ackerman has been covering the search and recovery all day today. This afternoon, she talked with people in the Valley Drive neighborhood where the Lawrence family lived. Sarah Beth.
There's a sense of deep sadness here on Valley Drive, and those who heard the heartbreaking news are already coming over to the street and leaving some items. You see here a balloon, a candle, and also a note here that reads, "Rest peacefully, baby Maddox." Many neighbors who live on this street and the Syracuse community were hopeful of a much better ending after the Amber Alert was activated over the weekend. One neighbor who lives across the family says he would have seen the family from time to time, and today's news is absolutely devastating.
It's very surprising. However, I never can judge a mile, walk a mile in a man's shoes. So I don't know what he was going through at the time, but it was surprising. It's very sad.
Tonight, there are 2 Syracuse police cars standing outside the home. We have not seen anyone come in or go out at this time, but neighbors nearby say they do remember seeing baby Maddox playing in a sandbox in the summertime, and they can't believe she's really gone. For now, reporting live in Syracuse, I'm Sarah Thackerman.
Such a heart-wrenching time for this community. Obviously, the family, those working on the investigation. All weekend long, people had kept their hopes up right into this morning. Those hopes were dashed, and we're all feeling that mourning tonight for Maddox. Megan?
Well, Matt, we heard at the news conference today, people were asking the question why, and so many people in our community tonight are wondering what could have led this man to allegedly take the life of his own child. The police chief said today that he's not aware of any mental illness. What are we hearing tonight? Do we have any sense as to a motive in this case?
Well, as the chief said today, whatever motive that there might be doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. He said, we are asking him to think logically, and he said in this case, the accused was not thinking logically. Coming up tonight at 6, I did ask the chief if there's anyone else out there right now feeling perhaps isolated, feeling like they don't have any alternatives. What should they do? And he gave me an answer that'll have people thinking about how great this community really is. Megan, more later on.
All right, Matt, we'll see you in a little bit. Tonight, we continue our coverage of baby Maddox's death. Coming up at 5:30, our Samantha Durbin talks to friends of the Lawrence family who are planning a vigil for tonight. Also at 5:30, we hope to get some answers from Onondaga County District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick. He's my special guest live in studio talking about his plans to prosecute this case. Of course, for the latest information on this developing story, go to our website, cnycentral.com. Still ahead on NBC3 News at 5. Wayne?
And Megan, we got a quiet weather pattern around right now on live tripled off the radar, brought to you by Hugo Community College. But brand new winter weather advisories have been issued. I'll tell you what that's going to mean for us coming up in a few minutes.
I think that we tend to underestimate the range of cues that our children are capable of giving us.
Capitalizing on cues from your baby to teach them toilet training from birth. That's right, it may be possible. Tonight, a Fayetteville woman explains how it works and how long it took with her own children. You won't want to miss it. You're watching NBC3 News at 5. Welcome back to NBC3 News at 5. Say the words potty training and most parents will cringe, hoping to avoid the inevitable task of teaching their children to use the potty. But what if there was a way to ditch the diapers earlier? One local mother says it's not only possible, but it works.
Luck, and most of it for us was just luck.
For toddlers, their first few years of life are filled with exploration, learning to interact with other children and developing skills on their own. And when it comes time for potty training, there's a big learning curve for parents too, like Lauren Wojtalewski, who's meeting up with other moms to learn about potty training from birth.
I think it's a great idea, and I think that it's just a better way to get them used to the potty earlier so that they become comfortable with it.
So in the moment, it seems like really intense and very
Leading up the
stressful.
class on this unique potty training technique is Emily Polikoff of Fayetteville. She's a certified potty coach who helps parents and kids navigate the sometimes stressful world of toilet training.
Okay.
It's a concept called elimination communication, one she started with her own children at home.
I love kids, and I just want to help other parents make it as fun and easy as possible.
Polikoff says 1.5 to 2.5 years old is usually the best window for actual potty training. But the process, she says, can start much sooner than you might think.
The earlier you can start helping them know that there is another option, the easier potty training will be.
Parents can start by watching their baby, looking for signs they have to go.
This is a smaller potty that's great for littler kids, especially on the go.
Hold them over a potty or a cloth. Then use noises to give your baby the cue to go.
You can make a little sound like psst for pee, or some people click, or grunt for poop, and they build that association between being held and hearing the sound.
Polikoff admits it seemed a little strange at first, but she's seen success with both of her children. Her 4-year-old daughter was out of diapers by 22 months.
Here we go.
And her 16-month-old is almost there.
Tell mommy potty. Psst.
Both started when they were just a few weeks old.
When she started to scrunch up her face and make faces, I just held her really carefully in my arms and held a potty underneath her, or just held her over a diaper or another cloth and just said, okay, go potty.
Polikoff says your baby won't necessarily understand what you're saying, but holding them in that position can actually teach them more than you think.
And it should be on their schedule, and it is.
Dr. Marcus Rivera is a pediatric gastroenterologist with Upstate University Hospital and says whatever age parents decide to start the process and whichever technique they use, they should plan on being patient.
I think there's a tendency to think it's going to be a little easier than it really ends up being.
Some signs to watch out for: children pulling at their diaper, sitting uncomfortably, or hiding. He says rewards like stickers or candy work well, and he warns parents it won't happen overnight.
I'm telling them to just be calm, to create a positive environment, and to really sort of reward if possible, but to be patient. It takes the time.
Oh, who's this?
Didi.
Who's that?
Didi.
Bird.
Back with our potty coach, who agrees it can be a bit overwhelming for parents. She hopes teaching babies and their parents to communicate will make it easier to ditch the diapers later on.
Completely agree that you should listen to the cues that your child is giving you. But I think that we tend to underestimate the range of cues that our children are capable of giving us.
Polikoff is part of a national group called Go Diaper Free, which teaches parents the art of elimination communication. The organization says there's really a range depending on the kid. Some can go potty on cue as early as 6 months and can be reasonably independent anywhere from 10 months old to 2 years old. Still ahead on NBC3 News at 5 tonight, we continue our coverage of baby Maddox, whose body was pulled from the Inner Harbor today, the latest on the investigation. And we hear from heartbroken neighbors who were praying for that little girl's safe return. But first tonight, a live look at the growing memorial at the Inner Harbor as the community continues to mourn that little girl. We're going to hear from a family friend who's planning a candlelight vigil for her tonight. And Onondaga County District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick is my special guest in the studio with the latest on the investigation. That's next at 5:30. Happening right now. Sadness fills central New York tonight as the search for Maddox Lawrence reaches a horrifying end. Right now, we are going to take you to the Inner Harbor in Syracuse, where a body believed to be that of the little girl was pulled out of icy waters earlier today. Straight ahead, the latest on the investigation and the charges her father is now facing. As Onondaga County District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick joins me as a special guest live in studio to talk about his plans to prosecute the case. Tonight, how family and friends are remembering the life of a SUNY Buffalo student who was allegedly killed during a hazing incident. But first tonight, the Central New York community continues to mourn little Maddox Lawrence. The little girl's body was pulled from the Inner Harbor just after noontime today, a devastating end to a story this entire community was praying for her safe return. Her disappearance over the weekend sparked an Amber Alert when police learned her father likely took her and threatened to harm himself and his little girl. Matt is live at the Inner Harbor right now with late-breaking details not far from where the 21-month-old girl was found. And Matt, we're learning new details from a police press conference held late today.
Megan, we're learning a lot of details about what took place, not just today, but also over the last several days with regard to this case. First of all, District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick just told us that there's a motive in this case, that he says that Ryan Lawrence complained that he wasn't getting enough attention from his wife, and that was his motivation for the crime that he's now accused of committing, including the murder of his own daughter, 21-month-old Maddox. We're also seeing people coming here to this Inner Harbor area where we're standing tonight. They're coming to pay respects. They feel compelled just to be near the spot where her body was discovered just after noontime today. Now, today I talked with the family of young Maddox on the phone, and they told me they are devastated and they just need time to heal. Maddox was reported missing from her home in Syracuse Saturday night after her mother, Morgan, went to their Valley Drive home and noticed both she and her husband were missing. Ryan was supposed to pick up Morgan at her job at Destiny USA late Saturday night. Instead, he left the car in the parking lot with the keys in the ignition. Tragically, after searching for 3 days, investigators finally found the remains of Maddox in Syracuse's Inner Harbor. Now, tonight, there is a memorial that's starting to develop in memory of young Maddox along the creek walk here at the Inner Harbor in the rough spot where her body was brought on shore just after noontime today by those New York State Police divers. Community members who came out to watch the search of the little girl left keepsakes right below the crime tape. As for the father, well, late this afternoon, he was officially arrested and booked. He's now in the county jail downtown, charged with second-degree murder, scheduled to be arraigned tomorrow morning. He was picked up in Baldwinsville by police yesterday afternoon around 4:30. You may recall we told you about this last night. After a 911 call reported a man matching Ryan's description that came from a worker at the Thrifty Shopper on Downer Street in the Baldwinsville area. Police found Lawrence walking along Downer Street heading for the village of Baldwinsville. A short while later, they questioned him, and then they contacted Syracuse police, who came out and brought him in for questioning last night. Syracuse police held a press conference just about 2 hours ago now, talking about the details of this investigation.
We're supposed to protect our children, and all of us in law enforcement, that's the way we feel, and for most of us, that's the reason why we enter into this line of business here. As challenging as it may be in today's environment, we're willing to step up and don those badges and uniforms each day.
That was Chief Frank Fowler late this afternoon responding to a question I asked him about how devastating this is for the detectives, for the law enforcement members involved with investigating a crime like this one that is not only terribly sad but also quite horrific once we learn all the details that occurred here and in other locations. Now, speaking of those other locations, we've been telling you throughout the day that there was searching overnight in the Baldwinsville area. That, of course, is where Ryan Lawrence was discovered and taken into custody yesterday. There was also a search in the Labrador Hollow area today. The chief confirmed to us at that news conference that that is relevant to the investigation. And then, of course, just after noontime today, the helicopters were in the air, the divers were in the water, and the remains of baby Maddox were discovered here in the Inner Harbor, just underneath the Bear Street Bridge, just a few feet from where I'm standing now. Of course, with this story, as tragic and captivating as it is, neighbors turned out. They wanted to be close to what was going on. They were holding out hope late in the day, and here's what they had to say. As the search intensified, with a helicopter and authorities actually going into the water, the sense of dread that had been building at the Inner Harbor turned into a gut punch. It was clear the search for Maddox Lawrence was going to end here.
I think everybody has the same feeling when you have small children. You know, it's just a lot of love, and why would you hurt someone so innocent? I don't know. It's a big question. Why? Yeah. Why would somebody do something so terrible?
The police presence drew people who felt compelled to be close to the action. They followed the Amber Alert since the weekend, since moms with their children bundled up came, just in case police needed them to start looking around.
It's freezing. That's all I kept thinking, is it's freezing out all night. Nobody can find her. We have so much body of water in the city of Syracuse. I don't know why it's taken them this long to look in the water.
It's frustrating, and as a mom, you're saying things that resonate with moms everywhere.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's insane. I feel bad.
The search came to an end along the Syracuse Creek Walk, a place known as a jewel in the city, a place to walk the dog or with friends. Deborah Tucker says she came to pray.
For healing, just praying.
We all need it.
Yeah, it's just, Lord, let your will be done. But it just came to a bad, sad ending, and hearts are broken right now.
How can it be the will? Don't you ask yourself that? Despite your faith, don't you ask? So many people ask, how can it be the will that this would happen?
I can't answer that one. I just say, Lord, let your will be done.
People have been asking questions since I've been here over the last hour and a half tonight as they come to visit. They've been wondering things like, Was the baby alive when she was put in the water here? Why did this happen? Little by little, we're learning some of those answers tonight. One man who will learn more about that is District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick. He's back in the studio with Megan tonight to talk more about this case. Megan?
All right, Matt, we'll see you in just a little bit. Onondaga County District Attorney Bill Fitzpatrick is my special guest tonight. DA, thank you for being here. It's a case that has shaken this entire community. And as you know, people want answers. They want to know why. Do we have any sense as to how this could have happened?
Well, we're going to know a lot more tomorrow in terms of how we proceed with the prosecution. The medical examiner is going to conduct an autopsy on baby Maddox in the morning. I'll consult with him, during and after the autopsy. And then my plan is to present the case to an Onondaga County grand jury on Monday, and then depending on what the grand jury does, be able to reveal some more information to the general public.
Now, at this point, we don't know of any criminal history that this gentleman has, Mr. Lawrence. So how do you go from that to this? What kind of clues do we have?
It's not unheard of. I mean, I've prosecuted a number of child murderers who that's the first time they ever broke the law in any meaningful way. So it's not unique to Mr. Lawrence. And we'll probably learn a lot more about his background, the events leading up to the death of baby Maddox as we pursue the investigation.
What have you learned about him so far?
Not much. He was picked up by the Syracuse Police Department up in Baldwinsville and brought down to the public safety building. He was questioned for a while. Most of it's on videotape. He was treated very well. He was allowed to take breaks and have food and do other things. His story obviously altered with time, but I would say it was a phenomenal job of police interrogation. And eventually he decided to tell us where he had deposited little Maddox's remains.
And I understand that you just had a conversation with my colleague Michael Benny where you alluded to some sort of jealousy going on. What is that about?
Well, again, not unique. Some child killers don't like the attention that the child has garnered, either from a spouse or other family members, and Mr. Lawrence alluded to that in his statement. Obviously, the full statement will come out at his trial.
Where does this case fit in with the rest of your career? You've prosecuted some really, really terrible crimes. This one, though, really seems to resonate with a lot of people and kind of leaves a pit in their stomach today.
Yeah, most parental abductions end up with the child being recovered. And everybody that I'm aware of in SPD, the state police, the sheriff's department, my office, we're all praying that little baby Maddox could be put back in her mother's arms, and it didn't work out that way. And it's just words are inadequate. You have to buy a new thesaurus to get the words to describe the grief, really.
You mentioned the autopsy will be conducted. Do we know at this point, though, do we have any clues as to how she died, or are you able to say that at this point?
Pretty good idea of how baby Maddox died. Obviously, I want to discuss that with Morgan face-to-face, let her know before I let everybody else know.
And what do you hope that this community can do moving forward? Certainly there's a big show of support. A vigil is planned for tonight. So there's a great deal of effort trying to rally around this family.
Well, as we do an investigation, we'll ask questions. Were warning signs missed? Were efforts made on his part to reach out and get help, or was it just a cold-blooded act of evil that he kept to himself and carried out diabolically? If it's the former, then we try to reassess. What did we miss? Where could we have reached out? Where could we have helped and maybe avoided this? If it's the latter, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. He's going to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
It is a horrific case. We know it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, heartbreaking, Megan.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Still to come for you, new at 6 tonight. Morning baby Maddox. Tonight, the search is over for that Syracuse toddler so many of you were praying for. We will take you live to where she was found with the latest on the charges her father's facing, and her heartbroken neighbors speak out as they are wrapping their arms around this little girl's family tonight. That's ahead at 6. You're watching NBC3 News at 5:30.